we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Hello and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat on this 8th of September on this Tuesday. Welcome back from the land of holiday living. Long holiday weekend, Labor Day weekend over the weekend, Monday off. Hope everyone had a great, relaxing, fun, enjoyable. It was a beautiful day over the weekend, so hope you had fun. I didn't do a lot. A little bit of golf, and that was about it. I'll be honest with you. I was lazy. Todd Leary's here
A lot of bit of golf.
Dustin Johnson enjoyed his golf, I think. Didn't he take a record payday or something?
Yeah, he won $15 million in the in the FedEx Cup, and plus I think another $1.5 million for winning the tournament. So his last month, he's won over $20 million.
I'll tell you who did not win. Southern Miss's head football coach, Jay Hobson. He resigns one game into the COVID season after Southern Miss loses to South Alabama 32-21. They were a 13.5-point favorite. They gave up 526 yards. Not sure that would normally led to all that. There must be a lot more going to it, but it's kind of funny anytime this happens. But of all years this year, you're going to bail on a team one game in a COVID season? Man, that's weird.
Isn't there? There's got to be something else to that, doesn't there?
I read looking for a smoking gun, and no, they're just like, we got together, decided we needed new leadership. It was like, I'm like, really? You've had all this time. You've done all this. You've been doing these things. And now 1 week into the COVID season, that's when you decide you need new leadership. Well, I guess better late than never. Oh, well.
I guess.
The Kentucky Derby was over the weekend. I keep forgetting it. I forgot it in the headline. I forgot to even mention it a minute ago. It's crazy. And it was a heck of a Derby race, to be honest with you. And I wish I would have been able to get my bet in. Could not get it in. It would have hit, but I was not betting big. And I went back and looked. I would have won a grand total of $1. It was an Exacta box. So yeah, I was not.
I saw a lot of people posting or tweeting things out about how much money they won on their horse race bets, and I always question that because it's just I don't know jack about horse racing.
Very, very big time as Kentucky Derby, one of the biggest sporting events in the world, and no crowd this year for the Kentucky Derby, which was odd, but it was a cool time just to watch it. I chose not to go, but I didn't get to see much of it either. And again, like I said, not only that, I didn't see much of it. I saw the race. That's it. And then I've forgotten about it almost already. Crazy. But Tiz the Law was the overwhelming, prohibitive favorite. Upset by Authentic. Big race, man. It was big time. That's big time. That's what the Derby is about. Another investigation is being conducted by Indiana University Bloomington after dozens of student-age revelers were seen on 3 double-decker pontoon boats tied together, no protocols, no mask, and they were told by the rental place not to do it before they did it. And they did it any day.
Wait a minute. College kids did something they were told not to do? This is breaking news.
In this time and age, after we've already had one big party with suspensions coming. I'm like, I think anyone that's a student that's on there needs to be suspended. If you're that stupid, you don't deserve to go to Indiana University. Get them out. It's just not at this point. If you were the first, okay, I'll give them a break, man. It's because none of us took it as seriously as we should have. We're too deep. We're too deep for you to be having double-decker 3 boats tied together like you're down in Daytona or Missouri, where that is, Missouri, Branson, or wherever the crap it is. It's too late for you all to be doing that stuff. They've already had a party that they're suspending people over on campus, and yet they do it again.
If you're a college, let's just play devil's advocate on this, though. If you're a college kid, what do you feel like your risk is? What do you care? What do you care? I'm just truly asking. What do you care?
I don't know. I'm not in that position to be honest enough to say. I'm not there in that mindset, but at this point, it's not about their risk. It's about everyone else's risk, as they have been blindly told for 6 months now. So that's the thing. We're too deep into it. I don't care what their excuse is. I don't care.
I'm with you. It's just they get, and I'm with you. Like I am totally on your side on this. I agree. But I can also say they get mixed messages. It's easy for us to sit here and say, well, the students shouldn't be on campus.
They should be, and that's true.
You can't
they
put
shouldn't
thousands of kids in a dorm and expect them to not hang out with each other. Like
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that either.
So
they don't.
The kids are getting mixed messages. They don't
get all the blame.
Right.
You're right. You're right. Michael McRobbie deserves half the blame.
Sure.
He couldn't play football, even though I was watching my daughter play soccer last night. We couldn't play Big Ten football, but you can get all these kids on campus so they can go down to Lake Monroe and tie a bunch of boats together, because they're not going to listen to you, because this is not the first time it's happened. But that's okay for that to happen, but we can't have football. Even though they've got all the protocols in place, nothing's going on there. Everything's going crazy outside of that, closing down the Greek houses. All the Greek houses on IU closed, but that's okay. We can do that, but we can't have football. Yeah, that's real good, Mike McRobbie and the rest of the presidents that voted for that, because they don't have half a sense to put everything into play. They looked at everything through their glasses, how they wanted things, and it is not working out.
Yeah, I mean, none of it makes any sense. I don't blame the kids entirely, although, you want them to follow the rules. It'd be like us sitting here right now going, hey, these kids are underage. They know they're not allowed to drink. Well, but we all know they do when they go to these parties, and everybody seems to just kind of overlook that. I'm not sticking up for it. I'm just saying
it's easy to go both ways. I'll be honest with you. It's easy to do exactly what I just did, and then have you say what you said, and I'm like, yeah, well, I agree with that too. So there's both sides to the arguments, and you have to be blind to not see them. And I acknowledge that. Hey, I think they're half at fault. You're right. They're only half at fault, but they are at fault, and so their half gets suspended, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we just. We have a different motive, and I think it's yes. I in an ideal world, these college kids want college sports to happen and take place. Yes, they do, but they also, they want the best of both worlds. They're not. A lot of them are not willing to give up, the college life in order to make that happen. Why should they sacrifice? They don't really benefit from it, and so I'm just saying I understand that. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. But it's a very tough situation. The fact they're back on campus, I mean, they should be like, hey, if it's good enough for us to cut that. When you're putting thousands of kids in a dorm, hello, what do you expect from them?
Yep, I agree. NBA is still continuing, and the playoffs going on last night. The Celtics, man, they are surprising some folks, as they are up 3-2 on the Raptors now, the 111-89 win last night, as they continue to move forward, as they're heading towards the finals, man. This is not the year I thought the Celtics were going to the finals.
I agree. They've played without Gordon Hayward for the last 4 weeks, but rumor was last night he was back in the bubble, so he'll either have a 4 to 7 day protocol. His ankle is healing well enough, I think, to play. So, assuming they win this series, they'll have him for the conference finals, which only makes them even stronger.
You would think. Just by common sense, it says that. Sometimes I wonder, though, if you've gotten something that's gone this deep with what it is, that rotation, does disrupting that not
in a playoff run, and not with a guy that is the kind of player that Gordon Hayward is. I don't think. I mean, they can always use any team can always use a team-oriented guy like that can score, and especially in the playoffs, it gives you another body and that much more depth. They're playing a lot of games. I know they're used to playing a lot of games, but they're squeezing a lot of games into I don't want to say a short period of time, but when you play every other day, their bodies will get used to it, but boy, it's a beating.
The Clippers beat the Nuggets 113-107. They're up 2-1 in that series. And then on the day before that, Milwaukee, I cannot believe this, man. The Heat is putting it to them. Milwaukee finally won a game I think Monday, 118, 115 in overtime, no less. But they're down 3-1 to the Heat. They'll play tonight at 6:30. And then the Lakers and the Rockets. I think that's going to be just a fantastic series. It's 1-1 right now. The Lakers won 117, 109 last night, I think.
If you're the coach in Milwaukee, you're the number 1 seed in the East, but you're down 3-1, and you've got the Greek Freak who severely sprains his ankle the other day. Do you sit him out? Do you sit him out in this game, knowing you're down 3-1, and you were down 3-0? No team's ever come back from down 3-0. Do you pack it in, or do you? If he can
play, he plays. Man, this is the playoffs. This is what you play for. If he can play, he plays. This is pro sports, and this is not college. This is not high school. You don't get, his ankles hurt. Nope. If it's pros, you get paid for it. If he can walk, get in the game.
But what about situations like Kevin Durant, where, you risk him, injuring it even deeper, and then he's got to sit out all of next year? I'm just saying they're down 3-0. No team's ever come back from down 3-0. They certainly don't appear like they're better than Miami. So, if you've watched any of the games, which I've watched them all.
Willis Reed.
I just think, yeah, I got you. I'm with you. I was truly asking. I didn't have an opinion on it.
I wonder how many people know who that is. And I just say who Willis Reed is and what I'm even referring to. That would be
people our age and older only.
Actually, people our age, I'd be surprised because that's still kind of a stretch right there. I don't know that the fact that came to me that quickly cracks me up, but that's a reference back to the Knicks in the early 70s and comes out hobbling. Go to ESPN. It's the great old time footage.
Wheeled him out on a wheelchair.
Yeah, comes out
as the story gets older, it gets worse.
He's on one leg. They amputated it at halftime.
Right.
Oh man, fun stuff. The playoffs continue. That happens on today as the Heat and the Bucks at 6:30, the Lakers, the Rockets at 9:00. Eric Gordon and the Rockets. Hopefully they can continue that.
Eric Gordon has been on fire.
He just looks like he is a veteran. That's all he is. He's just a veteran. Period. NBA veteran. When he plays, you can tell.
How about OG yesterday? Did you watch some of OG?
I did not see any of that.
OG is a different kind of player. He had 7 of their first 11 points in the game, and quite frankly, could have had all their points.
He's become an offensive juggernaut, and that is funny, kind of, but only because he wasn't. But man, you talk about adding, turning into almost a complete package. He's getting there because he is a defensive gem already. But to add an offensive game that includes 3-point shooting, inside play as well. You talk about wanting to extend your career. That man's doing it right there. That'll get you a big fat next contract.
No doubt. That's for sure.
And he is trending that way, so we'll keep up that. Hey, coming up on the program, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indianapolis Star we'll catch up with what happened over the weekend in high school football last weekend and what's coming up, and especially in regards to IU recruits. But that's about the only thing we have fun to talk about without Big Ten football. And I'm still so mad. As a matter of fact, I was getting madder and madder as I was sitting at Kylie's game last night. I'm just sitting there shaking my head, looking at all of us. We were social distancing and all that, and the kids were doing their thing. And I'm like, wait, man, but we can't have Big Ten football. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and when you watch Southern Miss and South Alabama play, and
they've already had 2
BYU,
games.
Yeah, you watch these teams play, and you're like, okay. They tested everybody before the games, and they tested everyone after the games, and it was negative and negative. So. Man,
but it's all positive here, baby. All positive here. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat. We got Kyle Neddenriep from the Indianapolis Star coming up next to join us. Stay tuned. We're coming back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
It's what I got. I remember that loving is what I got.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this post-Labor Day weekend, Tuesday, September 8th. Joined now by Cal Neddenriep from the Indianapolis Star for complete coverage of all things Indiana High School. Kyle, how's it going, man? Another wild weekend.
Yeah, sure was. How you guys doing this morning?
Cannot complain. Just trying to get over the hangover of doing nothing, a lot of nothing over the weekend, to be honest with you. For me, Todd Leary here as well.
Well, good. Yeah, I was.
How are you, bud?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, guys. It was a good football weekend, and I think we've had 3 in a row now. Pretty good weather weekend, so hoping that continues. Knock on wood. But yeah, another. Seems like we're headed in a pretty good direction here as far as keeping the season going.
You know, the thing I was wondering about with all sports, not football, my daughter playing soccer, but was these, when they first get going with all this in, out, COVID, yes, no, back and forth, what it was going to be like to play. And from what I've seen, it's been pretty good. It's been pretty normal.
Yeah, I think so. I think for the most part, you know, once you kind of get past the initial, you know, I don't know what the word is, just the you know, getting back to, you know, seeing athletic events happen again. And, you know, once you get used to having people wearing masks and, you know, distancing and, you know, doing all that sort of thing, I felt kind of the same way. You know, when you're covering games on Friday night, the only real difference is, you know, the person sitting next to you in the press box, you know, has masks on, and, you know, you're just, you know, that part of it's a little bit different and maybe somewhat of an annoyance, but you know, that's probably one of the farthest things down the list as far as that goes. But I felt the same. You know, going out and covering games on Friday night, it's felt, you know, relatively normal, you know, covering the games and you know, it's a little bit different, you know, the normal scene after a game where you go on the field and there's a lot of, you know, fans and students and parents, you know, normally gather, you know, on the field after a game to, you know, kind of talk with their kids and, you know, mingle with other parents and that sort of thing. And the places I've been, they keep the people off the field after the game. But so that's actually, you know, kind of nice for me. You're still able to go on the field and there's not as many people and easier to find people. But, you know, other than that part of it, it's you know, been relatively normal. There's been some, you know, I know last week's game, on Friday I covered Roncalli Chatard, and Roncalli, they're one of their best receivers was in quarantine. So that was, the first time I'd really had a situation like that where a key player is not there and the game is still going on. But I think you'll probably find if you look closely that has happened pretty often at football, as well as volleyball and other sports in the fall. But, I've really felt the first 3 weeks like it's been, it's felt more normal. And I think as other states kind of get started too, it's kind of been that way for them as well, the things I've read and seen so far.
And one of the things I've also noticed is the fans, everyone seems to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. It seems to be getting normalized as our new behaviors in doing this, but we're all adjusting because we want sports. We want to see this. We have to do the things that we have to do. And the kids seem to be doing what they need to do in that regard as well. But I'm surprised that it's going as well as it has, which really every time I look at that and I think, well, I'm proud of them almost. But then you think of the Big Ten and you just shake your head and laugh.
Yeah. And I noticed last night that Colorado is one of the states they're looking at, possibly getting their football. And I think they canceled all fall sports originally, high school sports anyway. And they're considering, bringing sports back. And Michigan was the same way. They reversed their decision to, start football. And I think they start here in about a week or so. So I think it's actually trending more that way, where states are looking at say, hey, we see other people doing it now, and I think it makes it hard. And I think the Big Ten will find this too. Is once you see your peers and other conferences that are Big 12 and states, SEC states that are sort of close to you, and your competitors pretty much able to do it. You kind of sit back and wonder, well, why can't we? You watch games on TV this weekend, and like, why can they do it and we can't? And again, it's complicated. It becomes political in many ways, and we all know that. But it is hard once you see other people doing it, and you're kind of wondering, well, why can they and why can't we? And it'll be, you'll have Iowa State playing football and Iowa won't be, teams from the same state that are playing and one's not. So, it'll be, that part of it, I think, and we may find out more today and even sometime this week about what the Big Ten will ultimately decide. And whether it's Thanksgiving weekend they start, or there's been rumors about October 10th possibly getting started then, but they're going to have to know here pretty fast. So I would think if it's October 10th, because we're a month, basically a month away from that. So that'll be something to track again this week, and it's kind of a soap opera, as we know, with the Big Ten and what's happening there. I do think you mentioned that, and I think that's part of it. You see these other states able to do it, and that kind of leads to people scratching their head and wondering, why can't we too?
Yeah, I agree with you. There was some great action, at least over the weekend. This may not have been the prettiest game, but Lawrence North and Lawrence Central went at it. And Donovan McCulley, an IU recruit, he was 6 of 9 for 108 yards, but he did what he needed to do, especially at the end of the game.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of a surprise. Lawrence Central is not, they're not one of the top teams in the MIC this year, kind of rebuilding. Will Patterson, who played at IU, is the coach there now, and I'm sure he'll get that thing going. And they led that game into the second half on Friday night, but that offense for Lawrence North so explosive, and McCulley and Cooper, and they were able to get it done late in that game. And they have a really interesting game coming this weekend against North Central, which North Central's 3-0 so far this season, so that'll be a good test for them. But Lawrence North has been consistently, offensively anyway, one of the best teams out there. Probably that next level below Center Grove, because they've just been a juggernaut so far, especially on defense. But that'll be a good test for Lawrence North, probably their toughest game to date so far Friday night against North Central. And that'll be Zach Osterman's actually going to cover that for us, the IU beat writer, to kind of get a look at McCulley and that offense. So should be fun to get his take on what he sees with them.
Yeah, some big games coming up this weekend. New Pal at Mount Vernon, Lawrence North and North Central. You just mentioned Cathedral at Chittard, Ben Davis at Center Grove, and Bloomington schools battling as North and South are going at it this weekend as well. So we'll see. I think that big tight end for Bloomington North had a nice 65-yard touchdown last Friday as well.
Yeah, that's always a fun game. Those intercity battles. I'm actually going to go see New Pal in Mount Vernon, and New Pal. This could be their toughest. They've had 65 consecutive regular season wins, and Mount Vernon 3-0, and Mike Kirshner, the former Ben Davis coach, has that program on the rise. So that'll be could be potentially a game New Pal could lose, but as we know, they always seem to rise to the occasion in situations like that. But this team they have this year probably not quite as strong as what they've had, especially last year, and they knew that would be the case. So. That should be a lot of fun to see what happens out there and in that conference game. Mount Vernon, like I said, has been a program that's been on the rise since Mike Kirshner got there. So a chance for them to pull the upset, and that winning streak is second longest in the history of the state. So that would be a big big game on Friday night.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all the fall sports continuing. It sounds like I haven't heard too many schools having any issues. It sounds like everything is moving forward, and I hope that everyone continues to get to do that, because especially for kids like my daughter, who's a senior, Todd's son, who's a senior, you want them to be able to get as much of this experience as possible, because no matter what, they're not going to get all the experience. So I hope that everything continues as it has been so far in a successful manner.
Yeah, I do too, and I think it will. I think it'll just be a situation like we've seen where teams may have to shut down for a while. But I think after looking over the numbers last week, there was fewer cancellations and teams out than there was the first 2 weeks. I think we ended up having maybe 26 games that had to be called off from the original schedule, and some of those were teams that aren't playing entirely this season, but I think 12 of those were teams that were able to reschedule. So when you looked at the totality of it, there really weren't. It was fewer, and we're keeping a spreadsheet of that to see what ends up being the numbers at the end of the season. But definitely from the first 2 weeks, it was a lower number, and you hope that continues and is able to be the case. I think we've talked about basketball before, and I am curious how that ends up working out with fewer numbers of players on the team, and it'd probably be a little bit more difficult, just based on that. If you have 3 or 4 kids having to sit out, that's much different than it is for a football team having 3 or 4 kids out. So, that will be something to keep in mind. Also, an indoor sport, but pretty good so far. I think hopefully it's trending the right direction, and We've seen the worst of the cancellation so far, but you never know. I mean, it's always a day by day type of situation.
Hey Kyle, given the kind of schedule mix ups around and changing them around a little bit, is everything still set right now to go from a postseason standpoint? So like football as an example, is everything still set to go with the way it was originally set up?
Yeah, those dates are still in place for sectionals and the weeks that go along. And 6A will have a week. I am curious what happens with 6A in football, just based on, they have that week in between. Everybody's got a week off just because of the number of teams. And 5A, for the most part, there's a couple of games that will be played because of, they have sectionals where you have to have, an odd number of teams. So you'll have kind of that play-in type of game. But yeah, so I am curious to see if they have, maybe you could reschedule a regular season game that week, or maybe you just prefer to have the week off, if you're a 5A or 6A team. So, but in the back of my mind, Todd, I'm always thinking, like, what happens if, a team has to be quarantined that week? Or are they just, I assume
right,
that the staff to forfeit that game, because you have to stay on track to play week by week in the sectional in order to keep it online for the end of the tournament. So, that'll be a heartbreaking situation. And I would you'd almost have to assume there is going to be something like that happens for somebody along the way. And, you
Right.
hate to see it, but that's probably going to be something that we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But that'll be a tough deal, and excruciating way to end your season. And hopefully it doesn't happen. But you have to think if you keep that tournament on track like it's supposed to be, then there's probably no getting around that quarantine situation and having to forfeit a game.
Yeah, none of these kids right now want to be the kid on their team that doesn't allow them to play. Imagine, that you can imagine they'll be much more strict with themselves, kind of inner squad, as far as following the rules and wearing masks and doing all that stuff when it gets to sectional time, because you certainly don't want to be a kid in your community who is kind of responsible for your team not being able to play in the sectional game. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I cannot
absolutely.
thank you enough, man. I know it's going to be
that's exactly right, and you hope they're that way now. But especially if you're a senior and your last game is on the line, and not be able to play that that'd be really heartbreaking. So, hopefully there's peer pressure, to kind of do the right thing, and there are, there's only so much you can do, and hopefully you're doing all those things, and that becomes kind of habit forming, and kids are just used to wearing masks and doing the right thing at this point. But that's the thing I keep thinking about. We're only 6 weeks away from sectional football, and closer than that for other sports. So
right,
it kind of becomes a situation where you just have to have to just keep beating it in the kids' heads. I know coaches do that. I've been at practices where they're constantly telling them, and the kids have to be told, but all the coaches I've talked to said, as long as we keep saying it, they do the right thing. It's just, I think the natural inclination is to not wear them, and you kind of go back to, doing what's comfortable. So you just kind of have to stay on them and make sure they're doing it. And I think most coaches are doing that. And I think most kids want to do the right thing. It's just a matter of kind of reminding them from time to time.
Kyle, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. I'm muted. Well, I can't. Okay, I've got no control over that. So, Todd, take us out. Go to a break.
Hey, Kyle, we appreciate you coming on. Obviously, we look forward to having you every week. You're a big part of our high school wrap-up. So thanks for coming on, and we look forward to talk to you again next week.
No problem, guys. Anytime. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Well, that's take a break right now for Indiana Sports Beat. We'll be back in just.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tea time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local
Sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down.
Ooh, little Tom Petty. It never hurts to start the day off. Welcome back this Tuesday, September 8th. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle with you. Here's coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Great weekend of golf, matter of fact, if you got out to do that or whatever you got to get out and do. Looking forward. I think we're going to have Chronic along here in a little bit. Joining us on the program as he's trying to call me back on my phone, but I'm going to have to decline that. And now he's calling. Now it's in my ear. Luckily, y'all can't hear this, but it is ringing in my headphones, even though I declined the call.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
But, yeah, that's great how that technology works out. But looking over after winning for the Giants the other day, Caleb Berriger, he's 5-1, tied for fourth, I think, in the National League wins. He's having a good year. A lot of IU baseball players are having good years. Alex Dickerson is tearing it up. I think we got Chronic with us. Chronic, you there? Nick Westbrook.
I am here. Sorry about that, man. I couldn't cut a phone call
practice squad
fast enough.
We've been having all kinds of issues. That's okay. But I'm just sitting here going through some things. It's nice for Nick Westbrook making the Titans practice squad. I saw that. So good for him.
Nice.
Several Hoosier athletes in action, the NBAs, and a lot of India. I've talked about this before, Chronic. A lot of NBA players or Indiana players in this made it into this playoffs this year. And then there's guys like Gordon Hayward who are from Indiana, didn't play there, but big NBA playoff connection this year, more so than normal. I mean, there's always a connection, but more so than normal.
No, unquestionably. Yeah, you look across all the sports, and you're going to see there's a ton of Hoosiers just in the last 5 years that have not only made it up to the big leagues, that are doing a good job of sticking on teams, which has always been the challenge.
Does anybody else wonder how good IU would have been if OG Anunoby was as good at IU as he is right now? Because he is not the same OG Anunoby that was at IU.
Can you add him and Thomas Bryant together as seniors?
He's not the same guy. He doesn't even look like the same player.
Oh, he's wicked good. Wicked good. He's really developed an offensive game. Do you
watch
much
step back threes?
Crowd, you get a chance to watch any of the NBA playoffs?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those coulda, shoulda, woulda beens with him. You know, obviously as a freshman, he was just growing into his body, kind of getting his legs underneath him. And then as a sophomore, you know, you knew he was going to be something special. I don't know anybody ever saw him being, you know, necessarily an NBA world champion, but you got glimpses of his skill set in the tool bag, especially when you started
Yeah, another note this morning, I noticed 10 former IU players make an NFL 53-man rosters, so that goes along with what you're saying. Hey, we had something else we talked about earlier, Chronic, that I know you'll weigh in on, being a Bloomingtonian yourself. We had the issue with the alleged students over the weekend at Lake Monroe, and 3 boats tied together, and more partying and all that, which is weird. Students got having parties when they got back. Continues. I'm a little surprised to see that. I shouldn't be, Todd's right. I shouldn't be the kids, but still, at this stage of this game, I'm a little surprised. You there?
Hey, I'm back.
Sorry.
Love to have you back. Did you? Were you able to hear what I said?
I heard the front end of it, and I think I know where you're going with it. The party barges, man. That's right now it's just such a weird environment all across the county. I'm first to acknowledge. I was having breakfast or grab and carry out breakfast at least this weekend, and it's amazing the heightened awareness that everybody has for the way in which we're interacting with the campus community. This is one of those situations where the universities is holding firm to their pledge, to keep the conduct, the social distancing, and really put the onus on the students to do their part here to fight this thing. And, this weekend it got brought to the boat operators' attention that, if you look at the pictures, it was manifestly unsafe. Those things were overloaded. They were listing pretty heavy. That's one of the reasons they don't want them tying up, because if one of them goes down, you're taking the other boat with you. But the situations like that, no different than the yard parties that were taking place Welcome Week. In the social media era, man, as soon as that photo gets published, it circulates wide, far, and fast. And make no mistake, university is keeping a keen eye on what's being published, what's being reported, and they've made no bones about it. If you get caught, whether it's on campus or not, if you're a student and you've taken that pledge, they're going to hold you to it, and they are going to put your feet to the fire. And they've made abundantly clear there's going to be consequences for your actions, whether it's on campus, whether it's off. This is what they're holding folks to. So I'll be real curious to see how they handle it as far as the suspensions and whatnot. But it also demonstrates the limits of their power. They have control over whether or not you get to go into class, whether or not you get to stay enrolled in your classes. But they have zero control whatsoever whenever you step off their property. As far as
let me ask you this: if you get suspended, are you still liable to pay for the lodging and the tuition and all that stuff for that semester if you get suspended or expelled?
I don't know what the current policy is. Back from my student days, I know usually about 3-4 weeks into the semester was the hard cutoff for not just drop an ad, but whether or not that bill was going to be cashable. So I would imagine we're still probably under that same timeline. But I also wouldn't be surprised at all if they differentiate between like a drop an ad versus a violation of the student code of conduct, and whether or not you're entitled to a refund for that. But that's one of the things, and that's what struck me this weekend is, there are a bunch of kids having breakfast from a house I know is in quarantine. That just means they can't go to class. It's not like that the university has control over their physical beings. They can go wherever the hell they want around town. So it's really a fascinating time right now, and it's possibly difficult for everybody to navigate. The more we work,
we also know, Chronic, like we know of kids that are on campus that are taking all online virtual classes. They're not actually going to class anyway. So do you get suspended from an online virtual class if you're at one of these parts? I mean, that's just what I don't get. It's so hard to, write the rules and say this is, I know they took a pledge. I get that. But if they're taking virtual online classes anyway, and you put them all in a dorm together, what do you expect them to do all the time?
No, and that's the thing, man. And that's what everybody knew long before we ever brought them back, is kids are going to be kids. And don't get me wrong, too. I think there's a lot of kids. When you go around community, there are kids on bicycles, 50 feet from anybody that are still masked up. There's a lot of people, a lot of young people who supposedly, are we want to paint them all as wildly reckless, which certainly they can be, but that comes with the age, who are taking the steps necessary to keep this thing together.
But I think everybody knew that, there's going to be some impossibilities as far as what's been expected or what's being expected of them, the standard they're being held to, that everybody should have known was never going to happen, and especially when you get on the micro level, you want to put 100 kids under the same roof in a Greek house and expect them to stay 6 feet apart at all times? I mean, come on,
Right.
that's never in a million years going to happen. It was an unrealistic expectation. The flip side
You
of
could
that
put
coin, though,
100.
too,
You could put 100 adults in a house together, and they're not going to stay 6 feet apart
Yeah.
from each other. It's you can't
No,
blame their age on
absolutely.
that one.
I agree with you.
And the challenge here is, though, too, is this is what everybody wanted. IU just released their enrollment record or their enrollment numbers last week. It's only slightly down from years past, which have consecutive record-breaking years, year after year after year. The only difference this year is we don't have nearly the international students we did before because of the travel restrictions in play. But, for those that believe in market economics, the market spoke. Kids want to be in class. They want to be here on campus. That's unquestionable. And quite frankly, in order to stay fiscally solvent, the university had to have it that way. They don't exist as an online-only institution. So, everybody right now is doing their part to try to keep together as best they can. But part of the problem right now is, the goalposts are shifting from week to week. The expectations, realistic or not, aren't always being evenly enforced. And it's just really left everybody in a ton of uncertainty as far as what even tomorrow looks like, with so much of the situation being as fluid as it is. So it's a wild time for sure, man.
No doubt about that. A little basketball news I mentioned earlier. Trey Kaufman expected to name his top 5, but I don't understand what difference that should make. We all know Indiana, Purdue, North Carolina, Virginia. So, but that 5th one, we don't know who that's going to be. Maybe Louisville, but it's not the top 5. It's kind of cracking me up because we basically know who his top 5 is.
Hey, I got you back now. Trey Kaufman, top 5.
He was just asking about the Trey Kaufman top 5. I mean, it's kind of he's got a pet peeve with people putting out the lists, and I think I also have the pet peeve with him as well. It's just a tough situation when these kids right now are limiting schools down to 12 or 5 or whatever it is. To set an announcement time and date like is being done for Trey Kaufman right now, I'm an Indiana guy, and I want these kids, if they're going to go to Indiana, I want them to just say, I'm going to Indiana. If they're going to go to Purdue, I want them to just say they're going to Purdue. I'm over all these announcements.
I got to say I'm in the same boat, man. And, I get the practical matter. You want an efficient way to communicate to all the national analysts, to the coaches, to the staff. I would expect once you reach this point in the recruitment that, the teams that don't necessarily make the cut at least get the courtesy of a phone call or, a text message, something that's direct. Right. But, I'm right there with you. And maybe it would be different, if we weren't setting up show times for list cuts and everything else. It gets a little tiresome anymore when every decision has to have an edit. I've got to have some graphics to go along with it. And I guess at the end of the day, it's kind of the world we live in. But it certainly makes you appreciate the kids that are a little more straightforward about it. But at the end of the day, this is the world we live in. Everything has an edit nowadays. Everything, everything.
And every team's got your Odell Beckham Jr. or got your Chad Johnson or somebody who's the flamboyant, guy that wants all that attention. Like every team's got that guy, and a lot of teams have several of those guys. It surprises me Trey Kaufman is kind of putting himself in that category. I didn't see him as a guy that was going to take to social media as a way to try to get more attention. Like it kind of surprised me. He was one of the people that's going to put a list out.
I don't know if it's for attention.
Yeah. And, I also look at right now, with the recruiting situation kind of being flattened out like it has, basically flat line, to be honest with you, a lot of these kids are probably after having their, being swarmed at every open gym with a bunch of microphones and cameras.
Right.
It's got to be kind of startling for them to have that. All of a sudden they're in this void of attention now. And I don't want to color the kid. I don't know who he is. I don't know his character. I've seen his highlights. I've read his interviews and whatnot. So, I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush here, but it does certainly seem to be the trend anymore that, that every decision now has to be publicized and widely announced on Instagram and everything else. And it certainly doesn't necessarily seem in character for them, but at the end of the day too, I know a lot of times it's not uncommon for the kids to hand over the reins as far as who's doing the speaking for them. So often you kind of get a result of some group work here as well. So again, I'm not going to speculate on it, but I certainly would not be I would not have my feelings hurt if they just said what it is and they moved on and, we find out where they're going to play in due order.
I know it kind of is my old man, get off my lawn attitude. And that if a kid, it's my university because I'm an alumni, like I want them to pick my university and say, this is where I want to go. Like there's no question. If I have an offer to go here, that's where I'm going. I know that's being outdated nowadays because it just generally doesn't happen that way. But anyway, we just want Trey Kaufman, or as IU fans and people, I mean, we want Trey Kaufman to want Indiana as bad as we want him and want them. And it's not that case for every recruit that's that way, especially the out-of-state guys, but the in-state guys, I get my feelings hurt. I'm sensitive when they don't love the university as much as I do right now.
Well, and part of it too, I think when you look at the whole recruiting world as a whole, the zone is so flooded with, I'm going to cut my list from 21 to 19 here in a week.
Right. Right.
Seriously, so
we're chopping one off. Yeah, we're chopping one off a week.
To the Big Ten.
Down.
It's just gotten out of control, and I think a lot of kids going forward are going to bear the consequences of just kind of the burnout from just there's so much posting as far as the recruiting updates and the lists and everything goes.
Yep, no doubt. Well, Chronic, thanks again for joining. I know we look forward to having you on every week. It's not a full week if we don't get you on Tuesday. So thanks for taking the time, bud.
I'll tell you what, it's good to finally be talking when we got some live action games going on now. It's not the Big Ten, but there's some sports being played, and every week is another week closer, hopefully to get some IU teams on the field. So looking forward to it, and just hoping everybody stays healthy along the way.
Yep, no doubt. Well, thanks for joining us, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
Can you guys still not hear me? All right, I'm back. I don't know what happened there. But
he's back.
Technical problems. Gee whiz. Too many microphones, cords, and all that good stuff. But I always love having Chronic on with us. But it's just keep going. I'm surprised that things are going as well as they are. Like I said, I was down in my first game last night at Kylie's game. Everybody was up on hills, on chairs, spread out, masks on, kids staying away from each other. Fine. What you got to do.
If you watch the high school football games, I mean, all you got to do is turn it on Indiana Sports Corporation or Indiana, whatever that is. And
we're sitting there talking about all these fraternities and students and all that. And yet I just shake my head again because I get angry. We couldn't have football where they had every protocol in place, but yet where they have zero, as you pointed out, zero for what do you expect these frat guys to do? You've got zero protocols there in place, and yet that's okay. But where you have everything lined up to the T, that's not. That makes zero sense whatsoever.
And here, I would be shocked. I don't know this is a fact, but I think everyone would probably be in agreement. I'd be shocked if it Southern Mississippi or South Alabama, the two teams that just played this last week, I'll bet you their students are partying and doing everything just like what you see here in Bloomington. However, they have zero positive tests before the game, and they have zero positive tests after the game. So the players themselves are handling the protocols the way they're supposed to be done, and that is working. So that, to me, is what I think one of the big question marks was before. And I know, thank you for filling in or getting somebody to fill in for me the end of last week because I'm having some serious headache issues. But I don't know if you talked about a bunch about the Pac-12 stuff, but I mean, the Pac-12 sure seems to be backtracking right now, don't they?
I don't know. California, it's because the Pac-12 has so much, is all about California. So many California schools, and California is California, and they're being hit hard. So I could see them not, but Colorado, we just when Kyle Neddenriep just talking about Colorado, I think about them. It's just a thing. You didn't have to do it, and now you've screwed yourself. So this is not a little hiccup either. This is not a little baby mistake. This is a mistake of epic proportions.
This is one of those you don't need to worry about your ego or stand your ground. If you made changing your decision doesn't necessarily mean you're dead wrong. It just means things didn't transpire the way you kind of thought they were going to. So have an open mind and a small enough ego to just realize when you made a mistake and go back and change it.
Because again, don't want to beat this dead horse, but if there's all these other students, they have no protocols in place.
Yeah, but if what you're saying is true, I mean, if that's what they're saying is true, they shouldn't be practicing. They shouldn't be allowed to do anything.
No, if that's what they're saying is true, there shouldn't be a damn student on that campus that has no protocols in place. That's your biggest concern, where you have every protocol known to man, but yet it's not a concern where you have zero authority. That's idiotic to me. So
calm down. We're getting yourselves worked up again.
It's just crazy, but thank goodness we're out of time. Can't get too fired up, man. That's just the natural stopper right there. That's how you do that. But yeah, it just makes you shake your head.
It's frustrating. It's very
taking away so much from so many people, from kids, from people, from jobs to just senior years. It's just ludicrous.
It was a great point that Kyle Neddenriep brought up, in that you're going to have Iowa football not allowed to play and Iowa State playing in the same state.
You've got Pop Warner playing in Ohio. Pop Warner kids and not Ohio State. It's crazy. It's nuts. But yeah, you've got universities that's right in the same state. But that's going to wrap it up for us today. Good to be back. We'll be doing it again tomorrow. Looking forward to it on the Wednesday as we hit the midday point of the week. Got to keep saying those days because my days will be screwed up now.
For sure.
Week. But I hope everybody goes out, has a good time today, does something nice for somebody. Wear your mask, of course, do something nice. And until then, I will see you on the radio.